agenda. We will talk about where we are vis-a-vis this goal, where are the areas of progress, what are some of the challenges,
Hello, everybody. It's an honor for me to be here with you today. So my name is Ali Zerwali. I'm co-leading the Green Hydrogen Task Force, which was created in the frame of the COP29 Declaration for Green Hydrogen. This is chaired and co-led by SE4 and UN seat to UNSG. And the objective that was assigned to the task force is to work on short term. When I say short term, is immediate, actionable recommendation that could show that green hydrogen has a market, and mainly green hydrogen derivatives, meaning e-ammonia, e-SAF, e-methanol, green steel, and that green hydrogen could meet the market expectation in terms of price, meaning competing with biofuels and also competing with gray fuels. Is it something that is feasible today or not? And we are happy to share with you that this morning we launched officially the fact sheet with 7 recommendations that are demonstrating, based on math and financial model, that we can make the green hydrogen with the current technology that is available today competing with these other molecules, which is completely disruptive for the market because we are not talking anymore about subsidies from the states, the government, but we are just talking about meeting the market expectation. I will, in 5 minutes, explain to you, give you the overview of the 7 recommendations that we organized in 3 main sections. So the first section is dealing with the market and the regulation. First, we need to create certainty for the investment and long-term vision in terms of the investments. So, of course, we reminded the need of having binding mandates, the need to have a global certification, but maybe the most important regulation here that we are proposing is to put in place the grandfathering, to give the certainty to the developers and to the investors that the molecules that are produced now will not turn to become gray in 5 years because the regulation is changing. So the markets and the investors are requiring grandfathering at the FID, that when the projects break the ground, then they could remain green for the lifespan of the project and the whole time of the project, lifetime of the project. The second section was dealing with the technology. And because we are in immediate actionable recommendations, we didn't look to the forthcoming technologies, but we looked to what we could be done now to reduce the cost of the capex. And we just inspired from the renewables that's happening in batteries and renewables. And this is called modularization, meaning a huge part of the capex needs to be prefabricated in factories. And we see a lot of developers today and O&M, like ThyssenKrupp, like Siemens, like HIF Global, like Morimatsu, moving to this kind of approach because it reduces the time of the construction, then it reduces the cost of the financing. Instead of 3 years, if you take just 1 year, and we have IFDB here, they could appreciate that we use this time maybe. And it reduces also the risk, it ameliorates the safety, and the time to market is then shorter. And the capex could be reduced by at least 20% when you do things like this, because constructing in remote areas is always much more expensive than factories. And the last but not least, and this is what I appreciate the most, is that we demonstrated, based on techno-economic model and financial model, that we can bring the green molecules, for example, green methanol, today at the level of price of gray. First thing, 3 recommendations to do so. First thing, we need to relax from the EU regulation, meaning that the hourly matching, we relax from that. When you relax from the hourly matching, you reduce the cost by almost 45% because you are not with a capacity factor of 70%. You can bring it up to 100%. You use the curtailed energy, depending on the project, that is between 15 to 20% of the produced electricity. You reduce the capex relating to the storage of hydrogen, and you reduce the capex relating to the batteries. We love of that if you produce 45% more electrons, more methanol molecules with the same capex, it means that you can reduce the cost by 45%. But the study took an assumption of only 30%. The other recommendation was to relax from the CO2 constraint because the impact of CO2 in an e-methanol RFMBO is more than $350 per ton. So if you get rid of that and you go to CO2 from non-abatable industries like cement, or also from chemical industries, because the tax on the CO2 should be counted on the first emitters and not just the one that is taking something that is anyway going to the air and using it for a second use. Then you move from $350 or $400 to something between $50 and $100, which is the cost of the carbon capture. This is a common accepted cost. So with all of that, you can reduce significantly the cost by 30 to 40%. Secondly, what we realized is that this financial model that has applied on the green molecule are only done over 10 years to 12 years because of the offtake period, and everyone wants to go for a project finance with non-recourse. So if you expand the lifespan of your projects to 25 years or 30 years, which is a common standard in fossil energy, in coal industry, or in existing dirty facilities, then you can reduce your cost by at least 30% because your timeline, your tenure of debt is much longer. But we agreed that in order to do that, the only way, because you don't find financing, long-term financing in non-recourse, you need to go with financing with recourse, meaning that you need guarantees, whether from the state that is producing, that is hosting the production, or from an alliance led by importing countries, because if they're interested to import cheap molecules, or also from big companies that are investing in their project with big balance sheet. And in this stage, if you have a blending between non-recourse and recourse, you can reduce the cost significantly. The cost of financing from renewables is representing something like 40% of the final cost. So if you move from this commercial financing with non-recourse to with recourse, you can reduce your cost again by 30%, having a longer timeline. And the last one that we said is what helped the renewables to move fast is because they get competitive. And when we analyzed the reasons, it wasn't only because of the technology improvement. It was also for the high mobilization of concessional financing. And concessional financing in all the projects could cut the financing cost by 50%. Then in this case, it could cut the cost by something like 12 to 20%. So we only took very conservative assumptions. If you put all these recommendations, bit and pieces, one beside the other, doesn't mean that you can implement all of them in the same project or in the same country, because you need to be able to have an off-grid project, but also to connect to the grid. So for example, south of Chile is not possible. South of Morocco is not possible, you don't have a grid. But if you go to the south of Oman, if you go to Yanbu in Saudi Arabia, if you go to the center of Morocco, then this is something possible. And these countries are used to have some support in terms of guarantees to mobilize the concessional financing. So this is how we went from something like $1,400 for RFMBO e-methanol to something like $450 for non-RFMBO, but with the highest CI score that we can find, very green methanol. And this is disruptive for the market. And we are looking forward now with the EC4 role and the UN seat, with the support of IRENA and the other members of the UN seats, which are UNIDO and SDSN and UNDP, to try to showcase that this is not only feasible and proven and feasible and proven by a financial model, but it could be implemented in some countries. And thank you for your attention. Stefano, it's your turn. I cannot be the only guilty one.
Thank you. So, just to open the discussion, of course, I would like to thank the Council of Engineers for the energy transition for this partnership. I think it's very important. We have been talking earlier this morning about the barriers, what is missing in this market to be really blooming. But yes, since I am sustainable energy for all, I will focus on the part where we think that this can be an opportunity for the developing world. Let's focus on these two numbers. One is 67 gigawatt, which is the amount of solar total installed capacity of Africa, and the other one is 250 something, which is the total amount of energy installed in Africa. What I think is the growth of green hydrogen can be a leverage to increase the electrification of the continent of Africa. 67 gigawatts is exactly the same number of solar installed capacity of Spain, right? So if we think about this comparison, the continent of Africa and the little Spain, it's really impressive. If we want to have green hydrogen produced in developing countries, then we have for sure to take this opportunity to increase the installed capacity. And the development of the hydrogen industry can somehow be the spearhead of regional developments, of bringing energy solutions in areas that are not yet plugged to the grid and support the plugging to the grid. I think we have to really think about this as a development opportunity, not only as an export-driven enterprise. And this way, we will make the energy transition a more equitable one. We will share the prosperity that this new energy system will bring to the world. And as I was saying this morning, I will be super curious to get out of COP. I heard this morning that the number of NDCs tabled are around 100 and something now, so good mass. And see inside of these nationally determined contributions how much of energy and green hydrogen development is present, so that we can somehow map the future and see where we can seize these opportunities in a very equitable way. And I'm looking forward to the discussions. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Ali and Stefano, for those opening reflections that will help us set the stage for this discussion, for which we are going to move into right now. And I will ask all of our panelists to join me up on the stage in any seat you so choose. Mm-hmm. Do we have another mic by chance?
It's big, though, to accommodate.
Can I steal Petra's chair? Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Amazing. Okay, engineers who are good at math. We love to see this. Okay, so thank you very much again, Ali, Stefano, for those stage setting introductions. And I also want to first start by thanking the SDG Pavilion for serving as a venue and host for this conversation. My name is Liz Nelson. I'm a member of the Secretariat of the Council of Engineers for the Energy Transition. For a quick background, the SEAT is an independent advisory body to the UN Secretary General to advance his goals to build a coalition to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. So this is an independent advisory body made up of about 45, 50 engineers and energy systems experts, globally representative with a variety of different technology backgrounds, including hydrogen and green hydrogen specifically. So that's a little bit of context about me, the conversation that we're hoping to have. I think relatively everyone's fairly comfortable and familiar with each other and their backgrounds, so I'll just maybe shorten the 2-minute introductions down to a quick 30 seconds, and I'll ask all of you to go down the line, just provide an introduction on your background, some organizational priorities that you have around green hydrogen development and deployment. Ali, I might skip you if that's okay. Okay, and I'll hand it straight over to Petra.
Yes, good afternoon. It's nice to be here with friends. My name is Petra Schwager. I'm the Chief of Climate and Technology Partnerships at UNIDO. Some 4 years ago, we launched our global program for hydrogen in industry, actually with the idea to drive a new industrial development in developing and transition countries. And at the moment, we are working with 15 countries and with all of you here around. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Stefano Marguccio. I'm the Deputy CEO of Sustainable Energy for All. For us, hydrogen is important on the SDG 7 completion part, where we cooperate in the context of the compacts, and we do a lot of energy modeling and energy planning for developing countries, and of course in the energy mix we always take into account hydrogen as an option.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Karaoke. I'm the Vice President for Power, Energy, Climate Change and Green Growth at the African Development Bank. We are very keen at the AFDB to address Africa's energy, I don't want to say poverty, and we want to use all sources of energy and preferably renewable energy. Africa is well endowed with abundant sources of renewable energy, which we believe can be very helpful for purposes of, number one, decarbonization, and number two, providing a source of energy that is secure, in the sense that you don't, it's not subject to significant supply chain disruption. So really, and right now, our principal focus is on upstream development of green hydrogen, and we are, as in the course of discussions, I will explain some of the things that we are doing to support developers of green hydrogen on the continent. Thank you.
And I'm Jonas Moberg, and I'm the chairman of something called the Green Hydrogen Organization. We are a not-profit, a foundation. Our main goal is actually not to promote green hydrogen or the green hydrogen economy, but to make sure that we lower our carbon emissions through the enabling of the renewable molecules economy. One of the things that GH2 has been doing over the last couple of years is to provide good offices to something called the Africa Green Hydrogen Alliance, which is not civil society, it's not private sector, it's a group of governments that are committed and ambitious in this agenda. And we work very closely with them, and we support them in a number of different ways, alongside working together with other actors.
Okay, excellent. Well, since you had the mic, I was going to start with you, Jonas. Given that you did mention a lot of work in Africa, and this conversation is both talking about emerging markets, but also a specific focus on Africa and the opportunity that the green hydrogen market there presents. And kind of a stage-setting question for, given that you do work across continents globally, but are keenly looking at this space as well, Could you reflect on where Africa's green hydrogen market sits amongst other emerging markets, and what advantages you think that this market has, and any kind of next waves of emerging technologies and stuff around that?
Sure. No, thank you. If we start by looking on the market, if you like, the demand, I think it's global, and I think that we see over time Africa both becoming a producer, exporter of green molecules, and a user of them. I think for the time being, it's also important to recognize that even more so, Africa has an extraordinary opportunity to produce these fuels. You know, if you take places like Mauritania, it has, it has incredible solar factors, incredible wind factors, and essentially limitless amounts of space, 2 times France, actually more than that, and so on and so on. So the potential there, and if you also look at the geographies, we're pretty close to energy poor Europe from Northern Africa. We're pretty close to, or Egypt provides one of the arteries of global trade. So you could load green ammonia there. So the potential, we don't need to talk about it. The challenge that we're all trying to grapple with at the moment is that essentially things are not moving fast enough. We created the vision, or the companies came forward, they said we are ready to invest, but it's not quite happening. And so we are in effect in a crisis mode, and we need to recognize that. And it's not helpful just to say, be optimistic and say it is happening and so on. That's not actually what we need. We need Houston, we have a problem here, a problem that we need to fix with urgency, because we're not going to decarbonize, we're not going to see the growth in Africa and so on unless we crack how to make and use genuine low carbon molecules at scale. Now, one of the things that is happening is it's happening in China, and it's to some extent happening in India. So we've started to see the production happen in those markets. So it is possible. We need to get, so the key question I think we have to ask ourselves is, how do we learn from that, and how can we do the same in Africa? And if we look at, if I could just talk about 2 things here. So I leave aside the demand from Europe and so on. European politicians, they need to sort themselves out and so on to help that demand, both through carbon taxation and regulation. But leave that. There are fundamentally 2 issues. And I think it comes very much to why it's so brilliant to have someone like Kevin on this agenda panel. The first one is cost of capital. The cost of capital is high. We all know that. The cost of capital is particularly high when you compare to what it is in China, where it is virtually for free, maybe 1 or 2%. So we need to keep campaigning even harder and sharper. We need to go to our development agencies and owners of the multilateral development banks and say, come on guys, we need to drive down the cost of capital in a very different way. And there's quite a lot of different things we can do in that agenda. The other one, which I'm afraid also links very much to Kevin's responsibilities, is shared infrastructure. In Africa, in India, in China, we have to quite a high degree vertically integrated behemoth companies that are therefore managing to, in a very quick way, develop these very large, complex projects. In most parts of Africa, we haven't got that luxury. So we need various forms of shared infrastructure, which means that the FDBs and the others need to come in. And here, it's not just a question of finance, it's a question of how we drive down the time it takes to work out the development, finance, and use of shared infrastructure.
That's interesting, and you spoke about Kevin, and I was hoping to go to him next to build on something that you mentioned as well, because you spoke about financing, and we heard from you in the beginning about how renewables, there was significant subsidization of renewables that helped scale them. And I'm curious, from a multilateral development bank perspective, how and should development banks help do the same or something similar for green hydrogen to help scale that through concessional financing, diversifying risk, and what role can the African Development Bank play to anchor some of these early stage hydrogen investments, and what can we learn from renewable financing such as solar and wind?
Thank you very much. I think the starting point is that I believe that MDBs have this distinct opportunity to catalyze and anchor the development of new technologies such as green hydrogen. Because whereas we all know, as Jonas just alluded to, the massive potential of green hydrogen, they also are beset by significant resource requirements at an unprecedented scale, and therefore what you find, there is significant fast mover sort of risks that are associated with these projects. And so the one thing that, without getting into too much detail, that MDBs can do is to de-risk those projects, crowd in private investment, and assist in the establishment of regulatory and financial frameworks, just as we did for geothermal and other sources of renewable energy. So I think without having to disclose too much, and this is one area I know that the African Development Bank, we are demonstrating leadership. So we have a specialized entity called the Sustainable Energy Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa. I'm sure a lot of colleagues are aware. Even earlier, I think you was involved in CEFA at one point. And here what we've done is that it provides catalytic capital and viability gap funding in order to be able to make some of these projects work. So for instance, right now, we are looking at pre-investment reimbursable grant. CEFA is very creative. And so we've thought one of the tools that we could actually use is a pre-investment reimbursable grant that we can actually be able to lend to somebody so that it's a grant. If the project goes ahead, then they can be able to reimburse. If the project doesn't go ahead, then the project is, those resources are lost. They are not lost because they've been used to invest in something that we thought would be workable. So we are actually planning to invest in significant funds for front-end engineering design studies for a green ammonia project in Southern Africa. And we expect to get approval of this facility by 2025. And this pre-investment funding is crucial for de-risking the project to support bankability. And here what I would also want to say is that today, I think by virtue of the trust that donors have in the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, today we got actually approved, Germany announced an additional 30 million euro to CEFA to support green hydrogen efforts. So that is, I think, is a very good thing. So the other thing is that, as I was saying, is that there are other areas that we can support. We have what we call the Africa Legal Support Facility, which has supported the government of Namibia in negotiating negotiations related to a large green hydrogen project that was alluded to by Jonas here. And this has ensured that we've been able to develop a robust legal framework for new green hydrogen industry in Namibia. So those are some of the things that we are doing. But when it comes to looking at the way we've financed other investments, for example, solar and wind, you know, this is basically is the same thesis. The same thing, thesis in the sense that you have a situation that not many people understood solar. Not many people understood wind. Not many people understood the geothermal risk that is associated with the development of geothermal. So what we did is that we worked with countries and developed institutional and legal frameworks that was enabled private sector participation in those renewable energy projects. For example, I was personally involved in decoupling resource assessment for geothermal projects in Kenya. Because if you added geothermal development to and told a private sector entity to go and invest in a geothermal project without very good knowledge of resource assessment, be it geophysical or drilling, then they will not touch it. So, but what we did, we came up with a way whereby we divorced, and we said what we need to do is to support the development of the resource, and once you have the resource, then you can invite the private sector to develop those projects, because now it becomes a fairly straightforward EPC contract for harnessing the renewable energy resource and now developing, producing power. So I think it's the same way that we'll go. We will work hand in hand with governments to make sure that we, through these facilities I've spoken about, that we are able to invest in the upstream development of these legal and regulatory frameworks that will underpin the development of green molecules, or eventually, if we are that brave, the development of green hydrogen as a fuel itself. Let me stop there for now.
Okay, excellent. That was helpful. And you said something about how the development banks can help to catalyze and help support also then private sector investment. And we often see public sector funding helping to de-risk certain projects. And Ali, you wear a couple hats in this conversation, the seat hat as well as your HIF global hat of more of a private sector perspective. So I'm curious your thoughts on building on what Kevin just said about the role of multilateral development banks, public sector funding, how you see private developers in assessing risks and opportunities with emerging hydrogen markets, and especially you're coming from the MENA region, and curious what kind of market signals, policy instruments you've seen in your work that help to accelerate some of those investments.
I think it was said, it's a question of risk mitigation. There are a lot of risks, and the question is who is going to handle this risk. So when it comes to the risk of regulation change, the hosting countries or the producing countries could not take this risk, because now if they are exporting to today and tomorrow this green molecule to become gray, they won't be able to take this risk. So this risk should be taken either by the importing countries or mainly by the off-takers. But most of the off-takers doesn't want, because then it impacts their balance sheet and they will off-take green today, but maybe it will become gray tomorrow. Then the only ones who could do that are the developers. But then if you develop that in a non-recourse, the developers need also to give a balance sheet to guarantee that. So there are some questions for this regulatory risk, who is going to take it, and it should be only shared between the different stakeholders. When it comes to the project financing, I still believe that we need to learn a lot from what happened in Africa to enable the development of green electrons and to accelerate this deployment. It was mainly the heavy deployment of concessional financing with some state guarantees. Most of the projects are built in BOOT, built, own, operate, and transferred. some with residual value, others without residual value. But we have some big banks who financed this kind of projects, like IFDB, like KfW, like IFG, like the World Bank, who have the experience of that. Now, the thing that I see is that this financing that we're relying a lot on the state's guarantee needs to be rethought to rely more on the developer's guarantee to be able to access to the financial, because I haven't seen a lot of concessional financing go directly to the private sector. It goes through the state. And this is the innovation that the banks need to think on. And seriously, there are a lot of big companies that are more bankable than some states. So it's just a question of changing the mindset, the spirits, and allowing the private sector to be able to get this kind of cheap financing in order to reduce the cost significantly. I push it on my right, and then he has to answer to that.
Of course.
I think what I can say, Ali, we have evolved. And when I talked about the issue of reimbursable grants, this is a tool that we've actually applied, and the applicant is the project sponsor. And I can give the example of Komombo in Egypt or Kairouan in Tunisia, where because of significant escalation of the EPC costs, the projects that were already approved were actually almost unraveling. But by providing this reimbursable grant to the project sponsor, we were able to facilitate those projects to reach financial close. So I think we are not stagnant. We are trying to learn with the market, and we are trying to be responsive to the market needs. Thank you.
I'm going to turn a little bit, keeping on the same theme, but turn to Petra to talk about how UNIDO is coordinating something called the Brazil-UK Hydrogen Hub, which was launched at COP28 and is an initiative working at the country level to create low carbon industrial hydrogen clusters in Brazil. And with this, you're working in country to help mobilize the technical and financial support for this sector. And I'm curious, we're talking a lot at the regional level, at the country level, but I'm also curious how you think that the learnings that UNIDO has had from this program could be applied across different regional collaborations and partnerships, and how we can learn from what UNIDO is doing in Brazil and apply it into different other contexts in other regions.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, green hydrogen is a complex undertaking. It's not an energy, it's an energy carrier. So I'm applauding that Kevin is investing a lot in renewable energies, because without renewable energy, we will not have hydrogen. So that's a precondition. And I think that was forgotten a bit in the whole hype that we had, that it takes a bit of time. And then also you need to create the infrastructure, which is also not easy. And by exporting then the hydrogen will also increase the price. So there are a lot of elements there that were not discussed yet so much, but which we should consider. So while we have worked, every country is different, but in Brazil, which is a country that is rich in resources, rich in industry, so we came together with support of the UK government. They launched the Brazil-UK Hydrogen Hub. And this is a hub where we are teaming up with the Ministry of Energy. And in the Ministry of Energy, we help the government to shape the national call of interest for companies to apply for a specific fund under the CIF. So the CIF is a 250 million fund, where we then support it with criteria, with the selection. And now these projects are on the table. And we are now seeing how can the government still has to take the decision on which ones they want to go forward with. But then where do we bring in additional resources, be it financial resources, but also technical resources. And Patricia here is coordinating it here in Brazil for us. She used to work in the Ministry of Energy and can tell you much more about it than maybe I can do. But what I wanted to say is we have to see that we bundle resources. hydrogen projects are extreme finance intense, extreme complex. So what we are trying through this hub is to bundle this and to bring these different parts together. And we are looking now into setting up a similar model in South Africa. And we are looking in two additional countries where also the CIF is coming in with some funding. So maybe, well, there are 7 countries at the moment. I can't say which ones we are going to engage there. But so I'm inviting everybody who is sitting here to team up with us, especially the African Development Bank, Kevin, to when we have these projects that we really see that we get them off the ground. Because what is needed more than ever now is to get projects off the ground. And there you also have the Lighthouse program, the 10 projects of the World Bank that we will also be discussing tomorrow in the International Hydrogen Trade Forum and Breakthrough Agenda event on hydrogen.
Okay, great. Thank you for that background. Very interesting to learn about how that collaboration is happening in Brazil. I like how you emphasize as well, hydrogen can only have the power that the grid has, the renewable capacity as well. It's not a solo, sitting in silo technology. My last panel question before I offer one final opportunity for everyone to give a quick reflection is to Stefano. Thinking about SE4All's role in supporting emerging markets and emerging economies, and thinking about also the people that exist in those markets, and hoping that these benefits also translate into real benefits for people, communities, socioeconomic activities like jobs, industrialization skills. And I'm curious your perspective on how we can ensure that building this sector and building this market in Africa can help make sure that it's also bringing jobs into people's lives and bringing capacity and skills training into communities. And I know that SE4All is also a secretariat of the M300 initiative, so I think that this kind of connects well into some of the work that SE4All is doing.
Thank you. Well, what I think is, in order to harness an opportunity, you need a structured policy and civil service that is able to channel this energy. And for sure this is something that we are working on, but in the end, of course, the responsibility in each and every African country to make it happen. There is somehow something to do on making sure that countries have their energy transition plan. We are supporting with that. This is a very reliable way to see what the trajectory of let's say, electrification and decarbonization at the same time goes to 2050, and it's a way to also do the math of how much does it cost. Sometimes countries are running into something that is fashionable, but they are not aware of how much it will cost. Then we need ministries that are able to drive this process in a meaningful way, and taking into account environmental impact, water management impact, social impact. And again, I think this is for sure doable. There is a great potential for development, more so now that there is an idea of having a free trade zone inside of the African continent. I foresee an increase in big railways, big highways, flying routes, and all this is fueled potentially by hydrogen, right? All this long haul transportation is potentially a great way to implement hydrogen technologies. And then yes, there is a hunger of some countries to have more hydrogen in their life. But again, what I think is we have to focus on having hydrogen as an engine for development and not as a resource to mine and ship. And again, I see greatly the opportunity to link it with the access to energy, the implementation of bigger grids, smarter grids, and this is something that for sure Africa needs, but not only Africa. I see how Europe is running to deploy these interconnectivity lines under the seabed to make sure that they can, let's say, make profit of this new energy boom in Africa. There is the idea of having also pipelines for hydrogen. So let's see. I think we are really facing the dawn of a new system with a different energy mix. Somehow, through finance and policy, we can shape what will come out of it. But in the end, it's market-driven. It's really what is the technology that will give the best solution. And so the final point that I will make is there is a lot of advocacy to do. I think was one of the main messages from the head of the Green Energy Organization. This was a sector that was super hyped a few years ago. Now it looks like it's doomed. I don't believe neither of them. We just have to be consistent and see what is the space for this technology in the energy mix of the future and really create a market around it.
Yeah.
Stefano, I think we will see no country that is just going to export hydrogen. I think we will see in every country that it first will be local application, maybe at a smaller scale, and then export. Because until you can export, you need to put in place all the infrastructure, and it's more expensive. So I remember some 4 years ago when I was mentioning this, because we were always advocating for local application and then eventually export of green goods, which would bring much more value added to the countries. Some countries were laughing at me. But what we see now in every country, first application, and in many of the hydrogen strategies, first application at national level before you get to the export. The ratio will depend on the conditions of the countries. Could be 10, could be 80, depends. But we will, I guarantee, I really put my hand in the fire, there will be no country just exporting.
Okay, we are 1 minute to, and I'm committed to staying on time for the session, even though we started a little bit late. So I think this has all been really interesting, and I think hydrogen is just a piece of the puzzle, as with any energy technology or energy storage technology. It's just a piece of the energy transition puzzle that helps advance sustainable development. So Ali, I'll give you a closing 45 seconds.
Okay, maybe 15 seconds more, because I want to shock the assistants. So I'm talking as an African. I would not accept that Africa moves ahead on the green hydrogen, because I had the experience of the renewables, and I saw a lot of lack of financing for fossil energy, and all the financing direction through the renewable energy to push Africa and southern countries to invest in renewable energy and to contribute to bring down the cost. Today, Africa is representing 20% of the population, with less than 2% than the impact of the global warming. It's the Western world who needs to pay the tribute and the price of bringing down the cost. It's not us, the African citizens, or the African countries. So if they want to take the responsibility, they offtake, and there is export from the African countries where are blessed with very good renewable resources, but global south, to the Western world, to the developed countries. And then when it's reached the breakdown, in terms of price, then we can step in and use that, because we have a lot of needs in terms of energy. But I just talk with my heart. I don't want to duplicate the experience of renewables. There are countries that are emitting a lot of CO2 that need to pay the tributes to bring down the costs, and then the other country will follow, because anyhow, the technologies and the upstream is owned by developed countries, and then they need also to finance this development of the industry and so on. So I wanted to shock a little bit.
We love a little shocking end. But with that, I will close and say thank you to all of our panelists for participating in this conversation. It was interesting for me to listen to, and I hope it was interesting for everyone else to listen to. Again, thank you to the SDG Pavilion for hosting. Shall we get a group picture?
Environment Institute, and I'm name is Sifred.
Potential in bridge.
Of ESG Integration Research and Education Center, the University of Osaka. and the UNITAR CIFO Japan International Training Center. We are very proud to organize this special session on the occasion of the COP30 of the United Nations conference of climate change. And we are here at the United Nations SDG Pavilion, and we are very honored to have Mr. Sean Maha, who is a global vice chair of EY in charge of public policy. He is the right person to give us the most cutting-edge policy issues to tackle our global challenge, including the climate change. And this is the session to invite the youth representative from Japan to hear their innovative ideas, ambitious ideas to change the world. Well, we are here at the SDG Pavilion, so I'm very happy to say that the SDG is important. We need to implement it towards the year 2030. But I sometimes wonder that sustainability is a buzzword we need to, of course, accomplish. But if we are so much constrained by the sustainability question, we start not thinking beyond that sustainability. Because the world we face today is so difficult and challenging, and only pursuing sustainability goal may not enough, and certainly not enough to make the world better. So we took the title, the Regenerating the World through Business Innovation. This is based on my own experience. I was a former ambassador of Japan, so I was very much involved in state-to-state negotiation. But as you can imagine, the state-and-state negotiation is often, complicated by all the political details and national interests, so that we are not able to make sufficient progress. But business is different. Business is make a change whenever opportunities are. So we are very much eager to see how that the business can change the world by changing their own strategies and practices. We consider at a very important major inflection point in human history or planet history. So whatever we do will make the difference for the next 10 years and beyond. So how we should make a change to the positive, make a positive change is a very important one. And I think time is really now to pursue a transformative business to build a regenerative future. So the real goal should be not bound by sustainability-oriented perspectives, but advancing universal well-being. This is the concept that the UNITAR CIFAR Japan is promoting now. That is to enhance the well-being of all the people in line with the well-being of the planet. So that's why we call this is a universal well-being. That requires the initiatives going beyond the sustainability, and that the regenerative business initiative will certainly contribute to that regard. I've talked about this diagram yesterday about all the initiatives the government is doing, and also the private sector and civil society, NGOs, scholars, youth are doing, all for the best, for the future, to making the world better for the human being and for the planet. the promotion of well-being, universal well-being is the goal. But what we are seeing today is that everything is doing rather, without coordinating each other. So I hope we would like to see the many stakeholders work together to join their forces and then integrate all the initiatives to create a better future. This is a very interesting picture of where we are. We are in the Earth 1.0, where in the world today we develop only by making troubles with social and environmental issues. And that's the reason why we pledged in the United Nations that we need to create a sustainable world. The sustainable world is to have a development while trying to solve social and environmental issues. But that is not enough. That's why there is an idea, Earth 3.0, that is to create a circular world where the prosperity can be made without causing social or environmental issues. But that probably may not enough, because net zero is fine, but we have to go beyond that. So comes the idea of generative world, where we can prosper with positively and mutually enhancing the well-being of human being and the well-being of the planet at the same time. So aim high, we need to aim towards this goal is an idea. So in order to do that, the backcasting is one idea. Backcasting is an idea not to forecast the future, what kind of future we are going to make. No, but backcasting is to set the goal first, and the goal is already set. See, in our this SDG Pavilion, you can see everything, what the world should be in the year 2030, right? Starting from zero poverty to the peace and justice and advanced. But what the difference between this ideal world and what we are having today in today's world? So what is requires to reduce and the gap, that requires huge effort, innovative ideas, transformative ideas, right? The bigger the gaps are, the larger the need for transformative, disruptive initiative for the business to do. And this is a great opportunity for the market as well. So I'd like to invite our youth representatives to give their own thoughts on how to make that kind of transformation possible to fill the gap and then create more regenerative world, going well beyond the sustainability-oriented mindset, right? So let us envision and build a regenerative world where we can achieve universal well-being for people and the planet all at the same time. And before handing over my microphone to youth representative from Japan, I would like to invite Mr. Sean Maha, the Global Vice Chair of Public Policy of the EY, to give his own view on this subject or his thinking for the future. So, Sean, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for coming. Please welcome with a big hands. Okay.
Okay.
Sean, thank you very much.
Yes,
The
thank
floor
you
is
so much.
yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Hoshino. Thank you for organizing this panel discussion, which is so extremely important. And thank you as well for your lifetime of service to your students, to your country, and to the world. You young people who know this professor know you're with a very important and accomplished man who's done so much good in the world over the course of his career. So it's really an honor to be here as your guest, your invited guest. I also want to thank my fellow panelists for putting up with the heat and humidity of Belém, and for coming all this way, because you know as well as anybody what an important place this is right now in the world, and how important it is for your voices to be heard. The subject of today's panel is regenerating the world through business innovation. And Ambassador, you've asked me to speak briefly on this topic. I'm honored to do so. You've framed the issue in a very compelling way. You ask, in essence, should we be satisfied with the progress that we're making today, or do we need to do more for the near term and the long term, and for the world that you all will inherit in just a few years? Or should our goal be one of regenerating the world, restoring health, restoring balance, and bringing vitality to our natural ecosystem, and in that way to the wider world, including human relationships? For businesses like the business where I work, and the clients we serve, the business clients we serve, regeneration means shifting from minimizing negative impact to creating net positive outcomes. For example, businesses can and should consider where their operations, where their supply chains, and where their investments can actively improve ecosystems, improve communities, and improve economies. It's about building resilience, circularity, and equity into the core business model. That, to us, is what regeneration means. And as I mentioned to the ambassador earlier today, EY has prepared a report on what we call the new economy, on what are the core principles that are required for regeneration in the economy. And we'd be happy to share that report with all of you after today's panel. So the goal is really to enable our world, your world, to thrive, not just to survive. And all over the world, including here in places like Belém, people are coming together in common cause to redefine what it means to regenerate and restore our planet and our society. In business as well as in government and in the nonprofit sector, people are innovating, they're investing, and they're working to make progress. And to a large extent, they're succeeding. To an extent people thought wasn't possible just a few years ago. We are making progress, and it's important to acknowledge that. If current trends continue, global CO2 emissions will peak in just a few years, and they'll start to gradually decline. And that's an important milestone. That shows that we can live and have vibrant economies without putting so many pollutants into the air. Um, and this is happening even though the world's largest emitters of CO2, the US, China, India, are still not meeting their Paris commitments. 95% of the energy added to the global power grid today comes from renewable sources, solar, wind, and hydroelectric. The world is adding 2 to 3 gigawatts of power to the grid today just in the form of wind and solar energy. That's the equivalent of 2 to 3 nuclear power plants a day. But the energy is not coming from nuclear, it's coming from wind and solar. Battery storage capacity, which is so important to be able to store the energy from the sun and from the wind, has increased 180 times just over the last 5 years. The use of electric vehicles around the world has increased 100 times over the last few years. The state of Texas in the United States is known as one of the leading producers of oil and gas. But what many people don't know is that Texas produces more wind energy than any other state in the United States. And it's number 2 behind California in the production of solar energy. So even in a state like Texas, we're seeing a very significant transformation. Whether this progress is enough to stave off the catastrophic impact of climate change is not known at this time. But the science tells us it's not. The science tells us we're failing to meet the goals that were set 10 years ago at COP in Paris. And so we need to do more, and that's where you all come in. Your vision for the future is what is going to drive this next level of change. There's a mountain in Japan, you may have heard of it, Mount Fuji. And I think Mount Fuji is about 20,000 feet high, is that right? $30,000 feet. 30,000 meters, or 3,000 meters. My point is this, that we're about halfway up Mount Fuji. And we've got the second half. We're making progress, we're moving up the mountain. But the hardest part is yet to come. And that's why, again, why your work is so important, and you being here to make sure your voice is being heard and that your ideas are being considered, because we need new ideas, we need fresh energy, we need a vision of the future that only the young people of the world can bring. So the big question for us is not whether we need more change, we do. It's not whether change is happening, change is happening. The real question is whether we collectively, as human beings, have the imagination and the courage to not merely put a bandage on the environment, but to revive, restore, and reinvigorate it, and make ourselves true stewards of this very fragile place we call planet Earth. Throughout human history, many of the greatest movements for change have been led by young people, people like you. And I've often wondered why that is the case. And I think there are two reasons. The first is that young people have what I call moral clarity. They see more clearly, because they're young, the wrongs in the world that need to be addressed and fixed. The other is the willingness of young people to act on what they see, to act on their principles, to act on their vision of a better tomorrow, and to make sacrifices for that. And in that sense, it's really the young that are the true leaders of many societies, particularly at pivotal times like this, where we as human beings are facing real challenges and threats. And young people today are already participating. You're here. There are other young people here. I sat in a meeting 2 days ago. We were around a huge table in one of the conference rooms, just of young people, talking about what needs to happen, and making sure that their voice is being heard. I'll close with two thoughts that inspire me, and I hope maybe they'll mean for you what they've meant for me over the course of my life and my career. One is from a woman named Margaret Mead, who was a very famous anthropologist in the United States 50, 60, 70 years ago. And she challenged people to think differently about human relationships and different cultures. And she really promoted understanding around the world. And she said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. So when you go to school, when you go to work, think about the fact that you may be part of a small group of people who think the world needs to be changed, and you may think the world doesn't hear you, but you can make the world hear you, and you can change the world. The other thought that inspires me is from Mahatma Gandhi. Do you know who Mahatma Gandhi is or was? He was a lawyer from India, and he took a vow of poverty because the people of India 100 years ago were living in terrible poverty. And he gave up all his worldly possessions, and he committed himself to changing the government of India, which at that point was controlled by the British Empire. And so he led a peaceful movement to break the shackles of colonial rule in India and establish a government where the people could control their destiny in a democratic system. And he said, you must be the change that you seek for the world. So if you want to change the world, you can. Start with yourself. Start with your own life, doing the little things in your life that can make a difference if everybody were to do them, and find other people to do that with. And before you know it, you'll be part of a very big and important movement. So with that, let me turn the microphone back to the ambassador and thank him again for inviting me.
Thank you, Sean. It's a great message to all of us. First, we are very much encouraged to see that things are moving more than we consider. The positive things are already started. So that's a very good news. And the second one is the expectation to you also that next one is each one of you, I'd like to invite you to the podium to make our own presentation. So starting with Yuki.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello everyone. I'm Yuki, and I'm member of Climate Youth Japan, and I'd like to talk about approaching global challenges as a weather forecaster. Yep. Oh. How can I'm gonna talk about my self-introduction. Yes, I'm Yuki, and I'm a member of Climate Youth Japan, and I'm in charge of Vice Representative and Policy Proposal Division Manager. And this year, I am a leader of COP30 Division as well. And my job is weather forecaster. I am working at Hokkaido as weather forecaster, and I choose this job because I believe weather forecasting is one of the few careers that can directly address climate change from both mitigation and adaptation perspectives. My mission is to connect science with society and to use forecasts not only to predict the weather but to protect lives and shape our resilient future. Yes. Yes. And climate change issues are not distant issues. It is occurring now. We are facing very frequent and intense extreme weather events. For example, heat waves, heavy rains, typhoons, or droughts, something else. These events are not isolated. They expand the risks on health, agriculture, infrastructure, and economies, like that. Why is it? Yeah. Is it okay? Sorry for technical issues. I don't know why. Okay. Anyway, as a forecast, we are translate. As forecasters, we are translators of science. We take complex atmospheric data and turn it into actionable information for governments, business, and citizens. Our role is not only to predict, but to communicate uncertainty clearly, to provide options, and to empower decision makers to act in time. In short, we bridge science and society. Okay. Japan's forecasting technology is really advanced in the world, with supercomputers, AI models, and satellites like Himawari 8 and 9, like that. We can update forecasts every 10 minutes. This speed and precision are very important and useful for disaster preparedness. Japan's system is benchmark globally, and it shows how investment in science saves human lives. Many developing countries remain vulnerable. They often lack advanced forecasting infrastructure, reliable satellite data, or trained personnel. As a result, floods, storms, and heat waves cause disproportionate damage. The gap between countries with strong forecasting system and the result is not just technological, it is a matter of equality and justice. Japan is also a country that is geographically highly vulnerable to natural disasters. However, thanks to advance in forecasting technology and other measures, damage is often minimized compared to other vulnerable countries. Yes, so as Japanese weather forecasters, we can contribute by sharing our expertise. Technology transfer means training local forecasters, sharing satellite data, and co-developing early warning systems. I want to study more weather forecasting in Japan, and I want to transfer that expertise to other countries. Yeah. Okay. In conclusion, weather forecasting is a powerful tool for tracking global challenges. It supports both mitigation and adaptation, and Japan's excellence can inspire and assist vulnerable nations. My vision is simple: forecast without borders, science serving humanity. So yeah, together we can regenerate the world. Okay, then. Thank you for listening. It is Climate Youth Japan.
Thank you very much, Yuki. It's been fascinating. And I wish you all the best in sending the good news and based on the science, of course, through the weather forecasting to the audience. That is a very important medium to the world. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to invite Shuto to take the floor.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Shuntei Gusa from Climate Youth Japan. Today I will talk about how we can turn the climate crisis into an opportunity by empowering youth-led green business and innovation. As a young researcher and someone who has worked in a startup using satellite and AI, I would like to share how new technologies and youth creativity can unlock powerful solutions for our planet. Okay. Today, the climate crisis is reshaping our world. Extreme weather, forest fires, and floods are increasing. And this creates a huge need for new tools to monitor and predict environmental changes. But these challenges also open the door for innovation, especially in fields like AI, remote sensing, and digital technologies. These are areas where young people can contribute immediately without needing large capital or heavy infrastructure. Young people today grew up with data tools like smartphones or AI and satellite maps in every life. We care about climate justice, we move quickly, and we collaborate globally, like in COP. This combination makes youth uniquely capable of driving climate innovation. So for my experience in the startup I worked with, we focused on environmental and agricultural solutions using space technology, especially in satellite. We used multiple types of satellite data, optical imaginary, SAR, and hyperspectral sensors to analyze changes on the ground in a way that conventional field surveys cannot achieve. By applying AI-based land use classification, we supported farmers by identifying crops condition, optimizing fertilizing design, and suggesting better planting strategies. We also developed tools for disaster risk reductions such as predicting flood or drought impacts on farmland. Seeing the farmland from space gives us a completely new perspective. It accelerates data-driven decision-making for farmer, and make farming more resilient, efficient, and sustainable in the face of climate changes. This table shows how AI and satellite data transform climate actions. Traditional methods rely on physical surveys. I heard one of the physical surveys is like people in Japanese government measure the size of tree one by one in each area and each forest. But with remote sensing and AI, we can monitor forest weekly, track carbon stocks transparently. This is especially relevant for mechanisms like the Tropical Forest Forever Fund, very trendy, where reliable monitoring is essential. Yeah, I think in Japan, people can measure the trees or check the farmland condition by physical survey because it's very small island. But Brazil or the Asian country have such a big farm or forest for plantations. They really need such a data technology, satellite and AI, but they don't have very few resources, especially in satellite. So I think Japanese startup and technology or cooperation can change this situation. To close, I want to emphasize this. Youth are not only victims of the climate crisis, we are creators of solutions. With access to data, funding, and supportive ecosystems, youth-led innovations can scale rapidly. Let's empower young innovators and build a net positive world together. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Again, it's very exciting introduction of the project you are engaging. Changing the crisis into opportunities is exactly what we are hoping to happen now, so that you are doing exactly that one. Thank you for your efforts. Okay, I'd like to invite Misato to the floor. Please, frame transformation. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Misato. Yes, and I'm a member of Japan Youth Platform for Sustainability, and I'm currently a student at Keio University. My course is policy management, and I learned sustainability under Miss Professional Kanie Norichika, and I have worked on educational startup, and I create educational contents for high school students to teach them entrepreneurship. Yes. When I was a high school student, I joined Nagoya University project, and I researched on sustainable rice cultivation, and I went to Freiburg, Germany. There is one country, it's pioneering of environmental city. Yes, and now I joined Japan Youth Platform for Sustainability, and I take a lot of action. So I think there is a lot of issues to take action and engagement in youth. The most issue is self-efficacy. Some people believe one person cannot create change, and someone thinking my action won't matter. So how do you say? The socialism often feel distant from action, and we see a lot of Japanese guys thinking to take action is very busy and too sensitive. So we think I don't feel the sufficient or participate in social movement. And as an activist, I noticed a lot of issues. For example, there is a lot of mismatch with the original purpose of the project. For example, if you want to take some action if you want to say to take action to change our policy, we wrote some proposals, but in the end, our goal is submit our proposals. So I think it's, in my opinion, we cannot follow the proposals because our goal is to submit our proposals. This is, I think it's very big problem, and of course now we just participate in meeting and share opinions. Yeah, I think so. So I always thinking it is enough to just comment our current system and repeat future risks. Everyone always knows. To take action, to my idea is plan for frame transformation. At first, there is a lot of business chance to take some action for company. Also, there is a lot of effective for students to collaboration for schools, and a lot of next generation discover the joy of taking action to, yes, and we realize the necessity of regenerative, and we can change the goals is towards a regenerative society. So I'll explain what is a frame transformation. It is a process that changes how society interprets an issue by offering a new lens, new frame for understanding it. For example, moral harassment in Japan, old frame is, we think it's just interpersonal conflicts and not considering it is an issue. But now we're thinking it is moral harassment, and we change the policy to make some frame like moral harassment. It's change our mind, and we can change. We can take actions. The key to success to transformation, I think it is the next generation, especially those who are always active now, because a lot of Japanese people now they don't feel it's exciting to take action, I think, but I think it is very exciting. So we have to tell next generation it is very enjoy, and we have to make the place to thinking that. And we recognize our own need and shift our frame. Oh. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Misato. Yes, having fun doing changes is very important, I'm sure. I'd like to then invite Haruki, our last speaker, from the youth representative.
Yeah. Sorry for my slide designs. It's from Mitty. It's not exciting anymore. I'm sorry about that. So my slide title is how multinational cooperation should be like. So that's what I'm thinking, or what I'm considering these days. So that's just the title. My name is Haruki Yamamoto. As I stated here, I joined CYJ in 2021 when I was in third year at university. And I was a member of CYJ until 2023. And I went to COP27. That's when I met Hoshino Sensei and Fujino-san and other many people there, exciting. And the photo was taken there in the COP27 at SDG's Pavilion. And next year, in 2023, I went to COP28 in the UAE, also as a member of CYJ. But from 2024, I joined Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and I started working for them. It's my second year there. And this time, unfortunately, there was a lack of COP29, but this time, as a member of government, I'm here. But this presentation is not on behalf of METI, just to clarify. And this is just my personal view on that. But to start with, I want to introduce what METI is doing in terms of how to decarbonize Japan and other countries using business. There are three principles, I would say. One is triple breakthrough. What is triple? It's emission reduction, first of all. Secondly, economic growth. And thirdly, energy security. And next principle is one goal, various pathways. If you may already know it, but we are aiming to promote AZEC, which is Asia Zero Emission Community. Unfortunately, there was a demonstration against AZEC in front of delegation offices, and I saw that, I watched that, but anyhow, we are promoting it. And third principle is solutions to the world. So that is, Japan is emits only 3% of the world emission, GHG emission, and we are responsible for contributing to other countries to decarbonize themselves. And to introduce you, this is Japan's NDC. Japan has a 2050 net zero goal. To achieve that, we set 2040 target, 2030 target, 2035 target, and that's just a linear goal. And this is to introduce AZEC. If you don't know it, under AZEC, the member countries are mostly ASEAN countries, except for Myanmar and Eastern Timor. And but Australia is also a member country. And within this community, it's just project-based policy. So there's not some simple policy for that, but we do it on project basis. For example, in Indonesia or in Malaysia, Japanese company go to that country and doing some projects to decarbonize, like a CCUS or blah blah blah. I don't want to introduce METI's policies for a long time, so. And but lastly, this is JCM. It's called a Joint Credit Mechanism. It's a credit transfer between countries, between Japan and some other countries. And currently, there are 31 partner countries in the world, and we're doing that. This is my last slide and the most important one. My message is as I stated in the first slide, what should be considered in multinational cooperation? And I think the most important is to make the partnership win-win relationship. But to do that, as a government or as a country, we have to think about national security. For example, food security, energy security, economy security. And also political stability, like to which country to export and import resources with, for example. And safety, for example, nuclear power plants. And geological conditions. For example, Japan is surrounded by the sea, and we don't have any, like resources like oil or gas. We have to import them, and that's unique to Japan, right? We have to think about that as well. Also, environment, it's the most important here, and resources, as I said. And I would say to make the relationship win-win, the most important is reliance. If some country cannot rely on that partner country, then it's not partner anymore. But to make it reliance, I think understanding each other is the most important thing. It's easy to say, but it's difficult to do. And that's just my short story in COP27. But when I stayed in Egypt, the first night I stayed didn't have hot water, and I forced to take cold shower. I couldn't imagine like life without hot water, but the owner of the house, she didn't have any hot water to live with, and for her it's normal. But for me, hot water is essential. But that gave me an idea that my habitat might not be his or her habit. Habit. And I think to make reliable partnership together with other countries, it's really important, like what their habit is and how different they are. And that's just my idea to introduce you. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Haruki. At first, I was worried if she's going to make a presentation on behalf of the METI, but no, she really made a point very clear. So I'd like to invite all the panelists back to the podium and the stage. And I'd like to invite Sean to give your feedback to what you heard. We have a weather forecaster, we have a young entrepreneur, we have an activist, and we have a government official. Quite a team we have today. And, did you hear your views? Thank you.
Do you want me to stand up here? Well, Mr. Ambassador, thank you again. This has been an incredible panel. Can you all hear me okay? And I'm just so impressed by what I've heard here today. And I feel that with these four people, if this is you and I will maybe come back here in 20 years, and these four people will be presenting to COP in the plenary session, explaining what they've done to help save the world. Because together you are an incredible team, and you're going to make a huge difference in your lives. You're already doing that. So I just want to say how inspired I've been here, how honored it's been for me to share the speakers platform with you today. And I leave here with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism about our future. So thank you again for all that you're doing each and every day, and I just encourage you to keep it up, and don't take no for an answer. Okay? All right. Mr. Ambassador.
Actually, our time is quite limited, so that we have to conclude our session now. But we started this panel with a very positive note, and the positive thinking is very important. And Sean demonstrated that there are already very important developments going on already, so that you are now feeling that energy to that path. And you have to realize that you inspire the global vice chair of EY is something quite big. So I think that is something I hope you bring back to your home and work to your own mission. And as Sean said, in 10, 20 years, let's meet here in a more official qualification and position. So thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been very exciting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That would be fantastic. Thank you all for coming to this launch of the PV Plus event. If you can all take your seats. Fantastic. So, welcome to this launch of the PV Plus report, Opportunities for South-South Cooperation, Solar plus Storage Energy Use for Sustainable Development. My name is Sonia Dunlop. I'm the CEO of the Global Solar Council. We are the Global Solar PV and Battery Storage Industry Association. And it is my absolute pleasure to be introducing this session today. This has been over a year of work, and I look at our partners, CREA, Climate Works, UN DESA, over a year of work to produce this. And it really is for us, as the Global Solar Council, the big thing that we are trying to really communicate and get across at this COP, at COP30 in Belém. Why? Because we really believe, as this report shows, that solar plus storage, when applied to PV plus uses, such as medical applications, such as the irrigation for farming, such as cold chains, such as small businesses, that is what is going to deliver all of the Sustainable Development Goals. To be specific, solar plus storage can deliver 12 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and this is being done with South-South cooperation. And this is so important because this is bringing a whole new paradigm in terms of the global energy transition, the global electro-tech transition, and really showing that South-South cooperation is what is going to save the day. And I'm quite sure that in 1992, in the Rio de Janeiro, when they created the UNFCCC, if you told them that, they would never have believed it, but they better believe it now. Because now we are installing 700 gigawatts a year of solar PV, 250 gigawatts a year of battery storage. 560 million people across the world use off-grid solar and storage at least once a week, and that is what we are here to do. I want to apologize. I'm going to have to leave this event slightly early because by total coincidence and an unfortunate accident of history, the Global Solar Council is celebrating its 10-year anniversary on the other side of the city, starting in, I think, 45 minutes or 1 hour or something. We have 200, 300 guests coming to celebrate with us. And for some reason, they think the CEO should be there. So I'm very sorry, but I will have to leave early. But on that note, I want to introduce our first speaker. And I really want to thank the United Nations Development Department for Economic and Social Affairs, who really put this report together and really drove a lot of the work to really deliver it, together with the Chinese Renewable Energy Industry Association, with Climate Works Foundation, with all the other partners who helped deliver this. And I want to introduce Mr. Zhuang Zhu, Director of the Division for Sustainable Development Goals at the United Nations Department for Economic and Social Affairs, UN DESA, to give a short opening remarks. Thank you, Mr. Zhu, for all of your work on this report. Really important, seminal piece of analysis in terms of the contribution that that solar can make. And over to you for a brief message.
Dear colleagues, it is a pleasure to join you virtually from UN headquarters in New York for the PV Plus report launch. I extend my warm thanks to our partners, including CREA and the Global Solar Council, as well as to everyone who has contributed to this important report. We meet at a decisive moment. Emerging and developing economies face the urgent challenge of achieving inclusive growth while responding to escalating climate impacts. Around the world, communities, particularly those across the global south, need solutions that expand energy access, strengthen resilience, and open pathways to opportunity. Solar energy, coupled with storage and applied to productive uses, offers such a pathway. This is why UN DESA is pleased to present today the new global report, PV Plus and Opportunities for South-South Cooperation, Solar Energy Use for Sustainable Development. The practical experiences showcased in this report illustrate solutions that are replicable across the global south and that demonstrates the power of solar energy to drive local economic and social progress without depleting natural resources or compromising our climate. The report's findings underscore several important messages. First, solar PV is now the most cost-effective form of electricity in history, helping to make solar the backbone of the global energy transformation. Second, PV Plus applications, whether in agriculture, small industries, cold chains, or community services, are proving to be powerful tools for development. PV Plus can support progress across at least 12 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, from poverty reduction to gender equality, from clean water to quality education. Third, the report highlights the critical role of South-South cooperation. Many of the most innovative PV Plus models draw on the experiences of developing countries themselves through technology sharing, capacity building, and new financing mechanisms. Strengthening this partnership is essential if we are to triple renewable energy capacity and bridge the remaining gaps in energy access, especially in rural and remote areas. Colleagues, today's launch is about more than presenting a publication. It is about inviting countries, development partners, and the private sector to work together in accelerating integrated solar solutions that place people at the center. It is also a reminder that clean energy transitions must be inclusive, delivering opportunities for farmers, small enterprises, women, and the many communities still waiting for reliable electricity. UNDESA stands ready to support member states in this effort. We look forward to new opportunities for collaboration. Thank you.
Please, a round of applause, because the UNDESA team really did a fantastic job on this, and I really want to pay tribute to the whole team around the world who did this. And I just want to underline just how much, just to illustrate what we are talking about. You know, a business that has access to solar and storage in parts of the world that do not have access to electricity is 27% more productive than a business that doesn't. There are examples of people receiving a single box with a solar panel, a battery storage system, and a barber's kit to open up a small barber's shop and start a small business in a box, essentially, thanks to solar and storage. And it is those kinds of stories that we really want to highlight. But before we bring on Dan Li from the Chinese Renewable Energy Industry Association, hold on one moment. I just want to bring in Mr. Zhang Xiaohua, who is the Chief Representative of the Climate Works Foundation Beijing Representative Office. Really, I want to ask you to come and give your perspective from a big global climate foundation on why you see this as being so important and how you see this as a key delivery mechanism for the global Paris Agreement. Xiao Xianhua, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And I really, it's really excited actually to join the conversation today. And after 1 year of the efforts, and I still remember a year ago and how we discussed this topic, and this is a really like-minded thinking, and to see to explore the potential of the Solar Plus on the way forward. And I'm really happy to see all these kind of ideas that materialize to the real product, and so really happy to see the outcome. And thank you so much, Sonia, your support, Li Dan from Korea, and also the most important DESA and you have a lot to overcome all these challenges. I think this is for the Solar Plus. When we first discussed this, we are all very excited about the potential and how this can help the developing countries, particularly to scale up the renewable energies. And we see that the clean energy transition is booming in the past 10 years. But we know that still the development is imbalanced, and particularly in the global south, how to really scale up the application. I think there's a lot of the new things we need to explore, and Solar Plus certainly has its advantage, its affordability, and its also distributed nature. So really have the great potential to scale up the renewable energy. So really excited to see the outcome of the products and all these efforts made by the team. So congratulations again on these efforts. But we, with the thanking and congratulations to all these efforts to be made, I think we still have a way forward to how to really scale up the Solar Plus in the future. I think this today is the first step. It's really half of the success, but we really need to make more efforts to bring forward. I think for the way to bring forward, I think there's three things probably we can think about. One is we really need to strengthen the policy framework to align all these different policies to create an environmental friendly create a friendly environment for Solar Plus in the Global South. Secondly, I think the knowledge sharing capacity building is still a key to further scale up the Solar Plus applications, because as different application scenarios, the different kind of ways to use, as you said, the solar agriculture, solar fishing, solar storage, many of the Solar Plus options. I think really to build the solid case, support the capacity building, knowledge sharing is one of the key important component for us to move forward. And the last but not the least is the finance, really how we really build the business case, find the innovative financing mechanism to support that. I think that's the key for really scale up to bring this Solar Plus application to benefit the peoples in the Global South. So with that, I think I will leave this time for the expert to further explore the potentials. But thank you so much again for this achievement.
Thank you, Xiao Chenhua. And just to reiterate, this is power to the people. This is power to the people, and that is also why we as the Global Solar Council, together with all our members, have chosen this week to launch our new mission. Our mission, which we are taking to the COP presidency, to achieve 300 million solar homes worldwide by the end of this decade, taking the goals of the SDGs, the goals of the Paris Agreement, to real people around the world. And our message to the developing countries around the world: the best way to achieve your development goals is now with Solar Plus storage, the Global South's energy of choice. So now I want to hand over to our dear colleague, Ms. Li Dan, the CEO, the Executive Secretary of the China Renewables Energy Industry Association. We have so much to thank China for. 90% reduction in cost in solar PV, 70% reduction in cost in battery storage since 2017, 700 gigawatts worldwide, and we are now within reach of achieving 2 degrees of global warming, all thanks to what the China renewable energy industry has done. So Ms. Lee Dan, please do come forward and give us a summary of what's in the PV Plus report. And after that, we will be having a short panel discussion. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disappear like I mentioned, but a short panel discussion with our guests here to go into the topic a bit more deeply. So Lee Dan, over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. I think there's something wrong with my PPT. And okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think I need to wait my PPT, and before my presentation, I will thank UN DESA and my friends Sonia, Jesse, and IGF, the partner of our report. And now, first I will introduce a short brief of CREA. CREA is Chinese Renewable Energy Industries Association, and was founded in 1990s. And CREA is China's leading renewable energy industry organization. Our membership includes all major enterprises in this sector. CREA has been honored to involve and witness China's renewable energy industry growing from its inception to its current scale. We are delighted to see the achievement in renewable energy development today and look forward these advancements benefit more countries, helping everyone achieve low carbon development. My presentation today will mainly address several questions. The first is, what is PV Plus? And the second is, why we are studying PV Plus? And the third one is, what can PV Plus achieve? And the last one is, how can we effectively deploy PV Plus? Okay, first, what is PV Plus? We're choosing the term PV Plus to focus specifically on solar PV power generation sector. The scope of of Solar Plus is far broader than our discussion today, including solar thermal utilization. We can explore that topic if we need it. In this report, we define PV Plus as an energy solution where solar PV system operating independently or coupled with energy storage, integrated with various energy consumption scenario or electric appliance to supply power. PV Plus feature flexible installation scale suitable for distribute development, short construction cycle with low initial investment, land saving capability that enhance land value through multi-purpose use, suitably for off-grid operations and localized power consumption, and particular suitability for achieving energy access in remote off-grid communities. Okay, have covered what PV Plus is. Let's now discuss why we started. The 2023 global stocktake highlighted that mitigate climate change, we must triple renewable energy development by 2030. Gradually transition away from fossil fuel and promote low emission technologies to enhance climate resolution. Coordinated action is needed across agriculture, health, and social protection and water resources, ecosystems, and related sectors. Okay. We recognize that the global south face due procedural in addressing development challenges, securing energy supply while fighting climate change. On one hand, economic growth requires stable energy access, yet weak investment capacity in adequate infrastructure like power grid and show development of generation facilities heavily constant. South nations development, on the other hand, low energy accessibility and instability further weaken many southern countries' climate resilience as they lack advanced technologies and infrastructure to mitigate impact. Finally, given culture global development trend, carbon tax is becoming inevitable. If southern nations prioritize fossil fuel in their energy investment now, they are risking further export restrictions that could heavily impact their economic growth. So what can PV Plus offer? First, solar energy is universally accessible resources. While distribution varies, it remains the most globally available renewable energy source compared to fossil fuel. Countries in Africa and Latin America, for instance, boast some of the world's most abundant solar resources. And PV power have largely reduced in recent years. Since 2010, PV power generation costs have fallen by over 90%. Today, PV stands as one of the most competitive, clean, low-carbon energy sources suitable for development in any region. Additionally, PV installations offer flexibility in capacity selection, allowing commercialization to meet specific need without requiring grid integration. The simple operation makes it particularly suitable for regions with weak grid infrastructure. Therefore, we believe PV Plus delivers sustainable benefit across economic, social, and environment dimensions. These benefits correlated and reinforce each other, further enhance our effectiveness. And next, it is explore what PV Plus can be achieved. We have categorized PV Plus application to directions. PV Plus application scenario in PV Plus DC terminal device. We observe that PV can be well integrated with community, industry, buildings, and transportations, and agricultures and fisheries. Regarding PV plus DC devices, we see numerous DC applications can be directly coupled with PV equipment, significantly increasing the utilization rate and of those terminal devices, and helping the enhance production efficiency and convenience in daily life due to time limited. It will now to introduce each case one by one. I invite you to refer to our report after this meeting. Okay, finally, we believe that the advancement of PV Plus involves a transition from external promotion to proactive. Okay. During this we must focus on 4 key areas. First, building awareness of PV Plus, clarifying what it is and how it is applied. Second, providing policy guidance. Many innovations that now seems simplify today life required government direction during its initial promotion, such as cars replacing horse carriage. Thus, government guidance remains crucial. Third, we need responding financial support. As we know, finance can faster amplify effect. We hope the channel can capital towards boosting production efficiency and improving living standards. Finally, we must mention social cooperation. Developing countries are those that have already experienced the application of PV Plus, like China in the past. Addressing energy access in Western regions where grid connection is difficult and time-consuming, have chosen PV Plus as the solution. Many developing nations are now exploring similar application, as seen in our early case study from India, Brazil, Rwanda, Philippines, and others. These countries share comparable development stage. Through South-South cooperation, we can develop a model better suited to the global South, thereby maximizing the benefit of the solutions. That's why we completed this report. We extend our sincere gratitude to DESA for providing this platform to bring together PV practitioners globally, and for presenting such a valuable reference document. We also thank every participant for their contribution. We hope this report will help some South countries understand and implement PV+. Finally, we look forward achieving PV development alongside all southern nations to support the global fight against climate change. And if you want to have the full report, please scan the QR code. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lee. My name is Bahar Sayedi. I'm a Senior Energy and Climate Advisor at DESA. I will try to fill in the shoes of Sonia, but it's impossible. Her energy level is just out of, it's incredible. Colleagues, we'll have a discussion with a number of panelists. I'd like to invite the panelists to please join me on the stage, and then I will introduce everyone. Please. Please take a seat anywhere. Okay, thank you so much for participating in this panel discussion. Clearly, solar energy and its applications is key to achieving sustainable development. It touches on all the SDGs. We know SDG 7 is the energy SDG, and this is at the heart of that. We are here discussing climate change. We know that, again, solar PV will have a clear role to play in that. Ms. Lee mentioned the GST with all those signals really puts this conversation around renewables at the heart of the climate negotiations. So we know this is important to achieve results in scale up action, and we are at the COP of implementation. The issue is we know it's not happening fast enough. We know we're not where we need to be. And you are all working on this on the ground closely with governments, with the private sector, with civil society, and so on. What I want to get out of this panel is your experiences vis-a-vis where are the opportunities that you have observed from your field of work? What are the obstacles and how can we address those obstacles? So maybe I'll start with, first let me introduce Mr. Olamide Niyi Afuye. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Africa Mini-Grid Developers Association. So starting with you, Olamide, mini-grids, the future of energy access, particularly in Africa, so important. What are the lessons we can learn from the work that you're doing on mini-grids?
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Olamide Niyi Afuye. Well done for pronouncing it properly. At AMDA, we support companies to accelerate their pathways to scale and sustainability using sector intelligence. So we have a flagship report called the Benchmarking Africa Mini-Grids Report, which is the reference point for market insights and intelligence on mini-grids in Africa. We use that data from our members to inform policy direction. We also use it to inform investments. and we support members to make their lives as easy as possible. So from as little as getting them discounted rates on professional services to matching them with qualified, certified chief financial officers. I'm proud to say this because we've just signed a contract with an investor to match qualified CFOs with our members over a period of 6 to 12 months. And what that does is that it helps them clean up their act and, if you like, become more sophisticated and savvy with fundraising. And the aim of that is that we're going to scale up that program after a period of about 6 months. We want to raise more money so that we can match more CFOs with developers over a period. One more thing that we do is sort of advocacy in terms of convening. We have these sort of convening platforms. And in the future, one of the things that I've been envisioning is a trip to China to to come and see the good work that the Renewable Energy Association is doing. With support from Climate Works, I believe we can make that happen. And long term, we want to see more local manufacturing. And so one of the things that I would like to talk to you about is how we can bring more Chinese expertise, but from a local perspective, so that we can reduce the reliance on importation in country. I think I'll stop there and hand it back to you. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. On that topic of South-South collaboration and capacity development, which is really key for many developing countries in creating the conditions that are needed for the uptake of PV. Let me introduce Ms. Lu Lisha, Director of International Cooperation Department from Korea. Ms. Lu, what are your perspectives in terms of South-South cooperation, capacity building? We already talked about Africa-China connection. How can we build on that? What are the lessons that you can share with us here today?
Thank you very much. Actually, when we talk about the South-South cooperation and the capacity building, which is very important to establish those kind of relationships. Actually, as Korea, we are the Chinese Renewable Energy Industry Association. We're trying to establish those kind of partnership with different countries, especially for the South countries. Currently, we've already established those partnerships with Kenya, Ethiopia, and Rwanda, and other African countries, and also in South Africa. Actually, we really would like to discuss with AB Solar and to establish a new country. And under this partnership, actually, we have three major pillars, actually. The aiming of this kind of partnership is to do the business collaboration. Because we know in China we have lots of manufacturers, we have the technology, we have full of the renewable, especially the solar PV applications, which now today is just like the PV plus. So we hope that this kind of application could, we are figuring out the business model and also financial model. We could collaborate with the different countries together, and depends on the requirements and demands from the targeting countries, and to see what we can do to let the development, sustainable development. And with this aiming, actually there are other two very important things. The first of all is the financing. The second is the capacity building. Because when we're doing the business matchmaking, we are doing the collaboration, we found that if the counterprices, if the companies would like to establish a collaboration, they do the business. The most important thing is the local capacity. It doesn't mean that the local capacity is not good, but actually when the manufacturer, just like Miss Lily, they have lots of business with in Latin America, in Brazil, and also in Africa. They found that the local capacity is really important. They make the projects, PV plus projects could be sustainable. Because this is a sustainable development project, but this kind of project need to be maintenance, need to be operation. So the local capacity is really important. We hope that we could support those companies and the locals together to doing those technician capacity, not only for the framework, policy framework, but do something practical. that will be truly support the business to the renewable energy development in developing countries. And the other thing is the financing. Financing also very important. But I've heard a news or idea about that. Actually, financing is another capacity. The persons or the organizations together, the platform, need to have this capacity to financing themselves, but not only the financing for the project, but also financing for the development. So yeah, I think this is currently my view about the South-South cooperation for the capacity and financing and business collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Let's go to our host country, Brazil. Let me introduce my colleague to my left, Mr. Rodrigo Lopez Saua, Chief Executive Officer of AppSolar. Now, AppSolar, one of the, Brazil has the largest solar PV market, one of the largest in the world. And you play a key role in this. How has Brazil been able to achieve that status? What are some of the financing instruments, some of the policy instruments that has allowed companies like AppSolar to take this technology forward?
Well, first I would like to thank CREA and thank the Global Solar Council for the kind invitation to participate on this session. And it will be a pleasure to establish a partnership with CREA. So let me say this while it's being recorded as well, so that we can work on that together after the event. Also, I would like to say welcome, bem-vindos, welcome to Brazil. It's a pleasure to be a host country and to have you all here despite the heat. But it is definitely a pleasure. And I also want to say that, just explain very briefly the work that our association do. So AB Solar represents hundreds of companies from the solar sector, from Brazil, but also from China, from other Asian countries, from European countries, from the United States. And these companies are doing business in Brazil. Initially with solar photovoltaics, but then coming also to opportunities. We have increased our scope of work also to energy storage, which is one of the areas I believe we'll be talking more about during this COP and in other COPs to come. And also green hydrogen, which is a clean fuel of the future that will help us decarbonize many hard-to-abate sectors, many sectors that are more complicated to reduce emissions. And the work that our association do is mainly catalyze business opportunities for the companies that do business in Brazil, no matter where they come from. We are always open to warmly welcome them in our country. And we were able to help Brazil grow since we were founded in 2013 until now, to go from 0.01% of solar in the grid to 24% of solar in the electricity grid in Brazil. Solar is now the second largest electricity source in the country. And this was only able, of course, with good partnerships. So this is what we believe that we should be doing. And also working on policies with the government, structuring the right financial conditions with the financial institutions, better financing lines, reducing taxes on equipments. We believe in a free market where equipment's coming from wherever will help the market to grow and develop. We need that because we need to do fast implementation of solar and other renewable technologies to help reach the sustainable development goals. I mean, 2030 is right around the corner, so we need to rush so that we're able to reach the goals in all of them.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Let me now turn to Ms. Lili, Chief Executive Officer of Alili. Ms. Lili, tell us about Alili. Obviously, you operate in many different countries, Africa and Latin America included. What are your experiences in terms of the context in which you operate in? What are some of the lessons you can share with us here?
Thank you so much to give this chance. First of all, thank you so much, Mr. Lee team from Korea, making a very perfect report. I have to say Alili, my own company. Lili is my name. Alili is my company name. So we are the truly active solar plus players in different countries. And we have office in Sao Paulo. We have office in Accra, in Ghana. And we also have office in Delhi, in India, in so many emerging countries. So after around 20 years solar developed experience and the solar, solar panel manufacturing business, we found the key challenging is diversify demand for the ending client. The ending client maybe need only simple to use electricity. They can get anywhere just charging their cell phone, get power for a laptop, without any relay on their, grid power, any power. So solar can make it done. Maybe in the remote area, the people only use the clean water. So the final aim just get water generation. And someone maybe need farming for the pump. But actually, for the supply chain side, as or previously also tier 1 companies, solar company. So most of suppliers is individually supplement. Maybe only solar panel, inverter, battery, mounting system. It's not very capable, big name in the market to do this integrate system, flexible business very well in the market. That's the key challenge for all of my experience or my team's experience. So what I really want to do is, we want to do the one-stop solution. So the customer don't worry about this, what is solar panel should be perfect match. What is the inverter is to be matched suitable for the system. Leave all the job to our solar guys, right? And when you have this solar system, any trouble, we give you help, on-site help. That's also, Lisha said. We also need innovation business model and innovation solar products, such as my solar backpack. You can take it back and get power anywhere in the world, just with the sunshine. And we also need flexible business model. This is really, really important. Local partner is the key because we need a very fast response. Any trouble for system, any trouble for products, our partner can be on-site service. And they should get a very good training from our headquarters and the Chinese companies. So I think my license for Solar Plus, first is innovation for the solar business model, solar products. We can do any solar solutions. Second one is the localization with the local partners and strongly partnership. It's really, really important. Thank you. This is my license.
Thanks so much. I think your comment is a good segue into maybe another round. We have less than 10 minutes, so but I think it's important to talk about what are the barriers, what are the bottlenecks that you're facing, and how could those bottlenecks be addressed. So, Olamide, over to you.
Thank you. So, some of the I use the expression that access to capital is the bane of the existence of any company, let alone a company that is trying to put power in rural, peri-urban parts of Africa. So we have economic challenges. But what we are seeing is we're no longer just talking about the problems, we're actually solving those problems ourselves. And we're seeing the emergence of innovative thinking, where what I say is we're now in innovate or die mode. And one of the solutions, one of the symptoms of the access to capital problem is that there's no sustainable business models, that there were not sustainable business models, but that is starting to change. What does that look like? We're starting to see the emergence of what we call the anchor business community model, where you have a mini-grid company that is powering, or that is partnering with an industrial partner, for example, a tower company, a telecom tower company, an agriculture project, irrigation projects, and those allied industries that will consume a significant load of the power, where, say, 50 to 60%, where the residual power can go to the communities. And what that is doing is that it's, in addition to the revenue assurance that it provides to the companies, you're seeing that there's more impact metrics, there's better coordination in terms of, rather than building your mini grid site here, when there's an agri project here, why don't you take the project there? There's a better coordination in terms of an ecosystem thinking. There's the bigger implications for job creation, because apart from the fact that you're going to be hiring mostly local people for the mini grid company, you'd also be hiring local people for the local projects as well. What that looks like is, with not more revenue assurance means that there's more bankable projects, which means that you can have more access to longer term capital beyond what we're seeing with the grants, with the subsidies. So you can now access long-term commercial capital, possibly affordably, and maybe if we start to introduce the localization, which everybody seems to agree to, which I don't think is a controversial statement, you will see that the cost will also come down, which has a direct implication on tariffs and bankability. So there's a whole sort of chain reaction that needs to happen for us to get to where we want to, but we're starting to see companies evolving in that direction and starting to create more bankable projects to access capital. May I stop there and hand back to you? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So many valuable points: access to capital, coordination, job creation, and so on. Ms. Lu, what is your perspective on the key bottlenecks you're facing in your area of work, and how can they be addressed?
Okay, I think maybe that is, we cannot call it a bottleneck, but it's a very important issue that we need to pay attention and we need to care about that. It's the recycling. Because we know with the large scale, with the CCC capacity generation, and there will be more and more renewable energy, especially for the solar and the wind. So the recycling actually is really, really important. In China, actually, we were already trying to finding out how to do to recycling the solar panel models or the wind power blade. Anyway, and our association also collaborated with different partners to doing the policy recommendation, the research, especially for how the solar power model could influence the society, the healthy, the clean water, something like that. So that is really important, especially when we're doing to large scale deployment. I mean, not large scale for the large project, but also the small ones, because we know the Africa, they have a very large targets for the NDC. They have too much targets, and to fill the target, they have to install a lot of the solar PV, and that is really important. Yeah, especially in Africa, and maybe not only in Africa, but also globally. So I think the recycling and to do the make the solar PV panel healthy, safety, retirement from the stations. That is really important. Please pay attention to that. We need to do it together. Yeah.
Thank you. I think some themes are appearing. Both of you mentioned value chains, looking at the whole ecosystem, and obviously recycling falls into that. We can't end at power is transmitted, but what happens after storage, recycling, and so on? Rodrigo, over to you. What are the major bottlenecks you're facing?
Well, in a country like Brazil, where we already have a significant amount of renewable energy, solar, wind, we see the importance of infrastructure. So we need solid investments in infrastructure, electrical infrastructure, to be able to keep pushing more renewable into the grid and keeping the grid stable, working, reliably. Another area where we believe it's needed, it's changing the planning mindset. So we need to plan differently because it's a different type of electricity system. And another area is operation. The system needs to be operated in a different way than the old-fashioned on and off thermoelectric power plants, which was quite comfortable for system operators. Now they have to consider variability of resources, they have to consider complementarity of resources, and also flexibility of resources. So operating differently as well. Another area that is key is policy. We need to talk about stable policy and policy that helps us do the transition that we know we need to do. Unfortunately, in many regions of the world, and that's true also in Brazil, there are still more incentives for fossil fuels than there is for renewable energy. So our energy transition needs to be realigned in terms of the policies and the incentives that are in place. So these are some of the areas that I believe we need to work on.
Thank you. Creating the enabling environment and the policy instruments for private sector to come in. Ms. Lily, final words on the challenges. How are you navigating this as a private entity operating in these regions? Obviously, there is perceived an actual risk in terms of engaging in the market. Enabling environment is so key. How is that being addressed as a challenge?
A very good question. So that's also one of my aim to come here. That's really had a problem from my side recently, especially for this year. We have a big potential business in Ghana and Africa this year. But we found that the key problem right now is there is very few investors want to do the microfinancing project. It is truly hard to find it. But actually in the market, I have to say 80 or 90%, the ending client just need probably less than 1 megawatt project, including the solar, battery, everything. But with this kind of small project, it's truly hard to find investor. If most investors will say, okay, Lily, if you want to get my money, 20 megawatt minimally. But it's so hard to get it. Someone maybe only 200 kilowatt, but it's truly needed for their factory, truly needed for their farm. It's truly hard for me to leverage this investors and the ending client. We can do EPC, no problem, but we are manufacturing, players in the market. So we can't put all of this huge capital investment for the project side. It's not our job. But actually the payback for the solar system right now is truly good. It's over than 25%. Lisha know that. Some place maybe electricity from the government, from the grid. How to bridge this gap? I haven't found a solution so far. So I truly want everyone here, if you have any resources, can share it to me. That's really, really appreciate. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any reactions to the conversations we've had? We have less than 2 minutes.
I just have 2 new partners in Korea and AB Solar, so that's my reaction. I'm looking forward to working with you in scaling solar adoption across Africa and South America. Thank you.
1 minute. Thank you so much. I really appreciate more and more people and for the high level UN to care about the solar plus. Before maybe everyone cared the big ground mounted system. Now step by step to the real market, I think. So that's also my business, my mission to do the solar business. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Ms. Liu.
Thank you very much. And I'm actually, as one of the author of this report, I'm really proud of my work. So please help us to sending it to more, to replicate the cases and to let more and more South countries could see the cases and the business model, the policy framework. And also we call actually the recommendations about this report about PV Plus, we also call that collaboration. Collaboration from Latin America, from China, from Asia, and from Africa together. So we hope that the PV Plus could be much more better, could support the sustainable development.
Well, and from my side, first I would like to once again congratulate Korea and congratulate on many of its forms. And also thank for the opportunity of joining this panel. It was very nice and enlightening, I would say. And I look forward for us to keep working on all the SDGs that we can support and help with solar, energy storage, and other technologies.
Plays a key role in the challenges that the world is facing. We have solid examples from the ground on this is working, but we know there are challenges that we need to address to scale up implementation and ambition. From our side, I am really happy to see that South-South collaboration is happening on the stage as we speak. And this is really what we want to see at the end of the day. This dialogue leading to real partnerships and actions on the ground is key as well for you and DESA. So please, thank you so much. A round of applause for our panelists. And yes, and thanks for joining. I don't know if the link of the report is we can maybe display the link for colleagues who want to download it. And please do read the report. Thank you.